Discover the Women in Tech Trailblazers podcast, hosted by Tiffany, Benitez, and Jordan Franklin. Here, the complexities of being a woman in the tech industry are unraveled through discussions on key issues, personal growth, and how to succeed despite systematic challenges. It's a source of empowerment and inspiration for all women at all stages of their tech careers. We are so excited to be back here with you all today. And I wanted to start off, before we jumped in and introduce the amazing guests that we have here today, I wanted to just kind of start off and remind everyone. I hear a lot of people as I'm kind of out and about, or as people start asking, like, what is this podcast? Like, what are you guys doing? Just wanted to remind you guys that we're really focusing in on tackling topics that most people, and especially us as women, don't really delve into. It's kind of those like, hey, let's tuck that away. I'm going to have that conversation, maybe like behind closed doors. But I think there's a lot of those conversations that we need to start having up front and in open public places, so we create freedom and space for everybody to know that that's fine. Also, like, that's how we learn and grow. We were in some conversations this morning, and I'm like, I wish someone would have told me that in my 20s or my teens. And so just creating a platform. Audience is anyone and everyone. You hear Women in Tech Trailblazers. We are women in technology. So we know that we need it. And other women in tech, we focus on a variety of topics. People in the tech field, people not in the tech field. That's particularly applicable for what we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to introduce our guest. But before I do that, just want to say that the topic today, I think, is extremely important. I love all the podcasts that we do. We have amazing visitors and amazing topics. I would say really hone into what we're going to talk about today. This topic, really focusing on excelling our careers through creativity. And so when you think about the brain and how it functions, you've got left side and right side. And those of us that are high performers or particularly focused on just our career and our professional, we forget that that's only half, right, of our brain. And so really figuring out that if we can tap into the right side and understand things like art and culture that help fuel that right side, that we would perform like double or if not triple, et cetera, right, in our careers. And so today we're going to kind of talk about that topic. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our guest today. So this is Srividya Venkatasubramanya. I am super excited to have her today. She is a small business owner, mentor, and arts administrator who seeks creative and authentic, that's who we are, right, solutions to challenge the art world. As an administrator, she sees the imbalances in opportunity and training across artists and addresses that by working with existing resources and organizations to also see and recognize these gaps. It's important if there's a gap, right? We spend a lot of time focusing on that we really address it, call awareness to it, and then figure out solutions. She gives talks, provides trainings, and mentoring opportunities for artists and administrators to find their courage and confidence to take their next steps. She is currently the executive director of Rave Cultural Foundation that she founded in 2018. So welcome to the show, Srividya.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you so much. That sounds so nice, all those words.
Well, I always like to kick off the podcast with asking you, what does authenticity mean to you? Because that's really what our podcast is about. We want to understand, your authentic self, what that means, how you're bringing it to the table every day, and really bring awareness to like topics that aren't really talked about. We felt like authenticity was the best word to kind of use around that.
Yeah, I think for me, authenticity is about the freedom to be who I am. Because I think we all, especially women, and it's really, we are different from men, Yeah. There's proof.
Extremely.
There's proof. Because we are wired the way we are. There's just no point saying, no, we're not like that, or we're trying to be like men or anything. I think we have come beyond that particular discussion. We are wired the way we are. We take responsibility for our family. We are nurturers. The hormones we have, everything, the physical body, the way we are, evolution, the way we have ended up being today is very particular to certain aspects. That doesn't mean we can't work or can't have a career. It doesn't mean that men cannot be nurturing of children and so on, but just that we are all those things. So for me, what starts happening, I feel, is that we get cast in certain roles as women, especially, you're a mother. And if you're a mother, this is how you behave. You're a wife, so this is how you behave, So ultimately, I was not born a mother or a wife or a daughter, or, I was not born that way. I was born as just me, right? So somewhere along the way, we lose that authenticity in the name of relationships and love and responsibility, right? I think somewhere along the line, we lose it. And I think trying to keep in touch with that voice within you that expresses itself in certain ways. Like I have, like a lot of people, I was just discussing this with another person the other day. I have a loud voice. That's my voice. Okay. And so many people, starting from my mother, all the way recently to, I go to a coffee shop or somewhere and you can hear me, and people say, oh, I heard you. And I'm like, awesome. Thank you. That's my voice. I've tried, I run a Kumon Math and Reading Center, and, it's a Japanese method. And, so during our trainings, they always tell us, try to talk very softly and don't talk too loudly and don't disturb the students. And this. I tried. I swear I tried. I tried like very consistently. I made it a goal, 1 year, and I was doing it. My throat hurt so much. I could not speak like that. So I'm like, guess what? This is me. This is my voice. Get used to it, everybody.
Because we're also loud, like Jordan, sorry, but we are loud. And, you have such a good point. You said that like, there's all these methods and they said you should try this. But I feel like we're all created different. And there's a purpose in that, right? And so us trying to, whether it's loud, whether it's extra, whether it's, I don't know, fill in the blank with anything that you want to, if we attempt to be that, which is how we weren't designed, like it's painful. It's also not doing ourselves a service. It's not doing others a disservice as much or as a service. It's doing ourselves a disservice. And we are not servicing others by that either, because there are certain people in this world that need our loud voice. There are other women that feel like, and everyone tells them they need to, shh, be quiet, you're too loud. No, they need to see women rising up and saying, I have a voice. And it doesn't mean everyone has to be loud. That may not be how some people are, and that's okay. But to your point, like, be you.
But you were given the voice to be you, right? So, like, I am not a quiet person. I've never been a quiet person. It's just not me. I remember when I was growing up, one of my friends lived in an apartment, and her mom would be like, you're so loud. You're going to wake up the people in the next apartment. And I'm like, I don't know how to be quiet. Like, I can't whisper in church. Like, it just doesn't. Like, I might as well just not talk, which is really also a hard thing for me because I really like to talk. And then I have 3 children that really like to talk. And I'm like, I get it. People think I talk a lot, and I have 3 that do the same. So, I mean, it's just, I think you said it perfectly. It's being true to your unique self, right? And really understanding what that is or was, because I think you put it so great. Like, you add these pressures of being a mom, of having a husband, of job to it, and your authentic self might change a little bit, right? And really it's still in there. You've just kind of taken on these outside pressures to be like, this is what I'm supposed to be. But I mean, circling back around to what Tiffany said too, with the creative side, like, I do pottery and I love it. My minor was art and was actually black and white photography. It's really hard to find a darkroom that you can utilize. But so I kind of got back into pottery too, which was something else I did in college. But my husband pushed me to do it because he was like, it's something you love and you take time for yourself. And now it's something our children love and they take time to do it with me. But it took that little nudge to be like, there is like you really like to do this, you should do it, right? But I also feel like on the creative side, sometimes people feel nervous, right? Like, we're used to putting our career self out there, but this is like a tangible product that people can judge, right? And that's kind of scary. So, like, I mean, on the creative side, you're either up in front of someone doing singing or dancing or theater, right? Which sounds absolutely terrifying. You are presenting art or you're presenting something that is different from the next person, which is authentically you, but is also terrifying, right? Like doing my first art demo, whatever, it was like a craft day. I set up all my stuff and I was like, what if I don't sell anything? What if nobody likes my stuff? And I just hauled all this stuff to this place and they're going to come by and be like, this is awful. Luckily, I sold some things because I think I would have like packed up and been like, you can all have it. There's a trash can right there. But I think that's another thing, right, that you have to talk about when you're talking about using the other side of your brain. It's scary to tap into, but once you do it, it's so helpful. It's also scary to show it. But I think that's something to talk about too. Do you find that people find it kind of scary when they're used to using one side and not?
Absolutely. I think it comes from, I think a lot of that fear comes, that nervousness, everything, it comes from the fact that, and it's a fact, I say it's a fact because it's all around us, which is that we don't value the arts as a society. We don't. We value a person who goes and earns 100K, 200K, 500K, whatever. I don't know. It has to have a K at the end of it. As long as there's a K at the end of it, or an M, a capital M, or something like that, then we value it. We say, oh, wow, look how successful that person is. Right? We define success only in terms of money and fame.
Yep.
Right? We don't seem to define it in any other way as a society.
Right.
So it is so hard to, to tell my children, my daughter especially, she's very, very passionate about dance. And she learned Indian here in Bentonville, Arkansas. She learned Indian Bharatanatyam, classical dance, and she learned classical Carnatic violin. And, she was surrounded by people who didn't appreciate what she was doing. As a society, as a community. So obviously there is fear. There is fear of failure. As it is, we have fear of failure. You didn't go to your first interview, job interview, or your first exam or anything without fear. But you overcame that fear because the society around you supported it. It said that if you went through that particular fear, there is success at the end of it. There is nobody in the community, nobody in our society who's saying, oh yeah, overcome this fear and nervousness through your art, because there is going to be success at the end of it. We're all going to appreciate you at the end of it.
Right.
We don't have that pathway. We are the first. I remember my husband and I, we were discussing about whether my daughter should, continue her dance and music, into professional life, or even in some other way, but to continue. And the first thing both of us said was, oh, but there's not going to be much money in it. And the minute I said that, I was kicking myself. Why did I say that? But that's the truth.
Yeah.
We have that. So absolutely. And that just comes from that very basic attitude, or whatever you want to call it, that basic value system that we seem to have created in our society, that art by itself is not of great value. We have some focus on adrenaline and being on the edge all the time, which our jobs provide us in various ways, because there's always that tension, that pressure to do better, to get to that next level, whatever, certification, this, that, whatever it is. But the arts are actually the opposite. The arts actually calm you down. The purpose of art in our lives is to soothe the nervous system. It is to calm you down so that you can go back and get all adrenaline pumped and, all, ready to go and work and fight and do whatever you do at work. So that balancing we seem to have forgotten, we seem to have lost. Our ancestors had it. They would sing. The singing and dancing was a part of daily life of, just everywhere. It was they sang. When they harvested, they sang. When they made food, they sang. When they took care of the children, they sang. They would dance, with the children. They would do theater with the children. Every day there was a storytelling session of some sort, and there was some kind of a theatrical interaction with the children and so on. So all of this was very much a part of our lives, which today has become very scattered and very different. And, we've replaced it with all these expensive classes. It's so there's a cost to it in many different ways. But I think overall we've just kept pushing the arts down. It's not important. It's not important. This is more important. This is not important. And we are here, where we are so committed to these. And increasingly we are talking about mental health issues in our society because we don't have that balance, obviously.
Let's take a moment to thank our sponsors, Women in Technology of Northwest Arkansas and Gumption at my-gumption.com for their support. Their contributions are critical in bringing these meaningful conversations to you. Stick around for more engaging discussions right after this break.
And I think one of the things that you said was great too, is that it's to soothe your nervous system, right? When art becomes your job and not your hobby, then you need to find another outlet to function the other side of your brain, because then your art becomes anxiety driven and you're not doing it for you. And Tiffany and I had a meeting this morning, and I literally told her I had donated some of my art to a nonprofit so that they could use it as auction items. And from that, people saw my name and asked me to start making stuff for them. And I was like, no.
Yes.
The power of that no was so relieving, though, because then I would have had to take their vision, and that's not my vision. You can come look at what I have, and I'm more than happy to sell it to you. That's not a problem. But when it becomes that's making it a job, right? And I think you have to realize that we're having this conversation of using your creative brain, but if you are a creative, right, you also need to use your analytical side, right? Or else your creativity kind of becomes a cage, right? You're just sitting there and you got to get out of it, right? I literally remember going to college, and my parents sent me to a private arts college. And I say they sent me because I was an exchange student and they wouldn't send my application anywhere else. And I was in Belgium, so it wouldn't go anywhere else. So they sent me to the college they wanted me to go to, which was great. But I got there and I was like, okay, I'm going to be an art major and a French minor. And they were like, no, you're not. You've got to do something. And I was really good at sciences. And they were like, you got to do something else. You can love those things and do those things as hobbies, and that's great hobbies. But so I have a science major with an art and French minor, which looks really weird on a diploma, but it's having that conversation of utilizing both sides of your brain,
But if you really think about it, it is not at all off. Actually, it's a very good major and a minor.
It really is. The problem is that society has dictated to us what is valuable and what we should do. And just to backstep a little bit, because we keep talking about left and right brain. So I don't want to assume, I'm sure everyone kind of understands the gist of what we're talking about. But left hemisphere of your brain really focusing on logical, analytical, structured activities. Right, really focusing on creativity, intuition, and holistic thinking. And I say that because, listen, the reality is a lot of people, who is your audience? What are you trying to tell them? It's something I say at work, in any audience. And so our audience is typically women in tech, allies, women interested in coming in tech. And so if you're sitting here listening to this episode, I'm just going to be real, can you give me some data? This is who we are, right? I'm data driven. And so I'm going to share this with you. I'm going to share a couple of little stats with you because I think it's important that you don't just get on here and say, oh, they're talking about doing something creative. I don't have time for that. I'm going to tell you how this actually impacts your career. So creativity enhances problem solving. I'm sorry, but I don't care who you are and what your career is. You're going to need that. Mm-hmm. What about stress reduction and focus? Okay, ladies, I know men have stress too, but with all the hats that we wear, who does not want to reduce stress? According to the American Psychological Association, individuals practicing creative activities report up to 45% better focus on analytical task post-engagement. So when we talk about our career and all those tasks, 45% better performance, improved memory recall, and then finally, we are tech. So what we talk about a lot is innovation. So what if you knew that tapping into this enhanced your ability to innovate in those structured tasks that you're doing? So the Harvard Business Review says combining both approaches increases problem solving by 30%. So there are true benefits here.
Oh, absolutely. For example, if you look into, let's think about music, or even if you're crocheting or knitting or anything, even your sculpture or anything, if you look into it, because I've been thinking about this, for like as I was thinking about this podcast and talking about this intersection of the arts and technology as we understand it today, I've been thinking about it, and actually numbers exist all around us. And numbers are a very big part of the arts, but in a very different way. It's the same numbers. In music, full mathematics, because the rhythm and the melody, they have to match. And that is based on mathematics, complete mathematics. But you create such beauty out of that mathematics. It's not a list of numbers. It's not an Excel sheet. My husband, he's always in front of an Excel sheet. And I tease him. I say, you need to change what is on your computer every now. Because he's always with an Excel sheet, in front of him. But imagine music is also an Excel sheet of sorts, but totally different experience. But we don't see it like that. We don't perceive it like that. You're knitting or crochet or anything, you have to count your stitches. You don't count your stitches, you don't remember the pattern properly, it's gone. That's not good. You won't get a sweater or a blanket out of it. Your pottery, design, like if you look at design, because I'm very interested in design, so I've, read here and there about it. And, they have that golden rectangle, right? I'm sorry if I'm misquoting it, but there's a certain golden ratio in design. It's a certain shape. It's a certain ratio proportion. Math, pure mathematics.
But yeah, and the glazing for pottery is all chemistry, like, period. So you have to, yeah.
So if you really think about it, because when I, in my Kumon Center, when I try to explain mathematics to children about why they have to learn, and because they have to practice all these problems and this and that, I said, the basics always, it's so hard because you don't see the numbers around you and you're not working with those numbers all the time. You think that numbers are a different, it's a strange alien concept or something, because words we see all around us. We hear, we speak, so language is something we deal with constantly, but numbers we don't speak numbers, we don't read numbers, we don't we don't hear the numbers in the music, we don't experience it the way we experience language, for example. So I think we really miss the point about how the right and the left, or how creativity is part of everything that we do, and vice versa. That the arts are not devoid of a scientific thought process either. So it's not just random stuff. It's not as if artists are just doing some random stuff. No, there's a lot of due process and a lot of thinking and a lot of scientific thinking, very logical thinking in what they produce also. So
I know we talked about in your bio, I know that you run a creative organization. So what we always try to do on our podcast is whatever topic we're talking about, community is key, right? And so bringing people together for whatever it is, right, is key. And so we always like to share networks that do the topic that we're talking about. So as we talk about like creativity and really finding ways to tap into, can you share with us a few networks in the area or nationally or however that you feel like people that really want to focus in on understanding more about their creative side, or, hey, let me just try something. That's something else we don't do. We have to like plan it all out. Heaven forbid we just show up at something and try it and we're like, well, what if I don't like it? Okay, but what if you do and you don't know because you never showed up? So tell us about a little bit about your organization, and also if there are any other organizations that you think could really help us delve into some of our creativity.
So thank you, Tiffany, for that, because yes, when I started Rave Cultural Foundation in 2018, I had already been working with my friend Nandini Vardraj for about 8+ years in trying to bring more focus to especially Indian performing arts in the region, in Northwest Arkansas. Because there's so many children here. There are more than 200 children here in the area that are learning Indian traditional art forms. So that was my passion, and I was trying to do that, and I established Rave Cultural Foundation to do it more effectively. I had no idea what a nonprofit was. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was like to hell with it. I'm going to just start. I'll figure it out. And I've been so grateful for so many people, starting from the Walton Family Foundation. I still don't even know how that happened, but it happened. And there are just so many leaders in the local community who helped me, guided me, and shared with me. So without community, there's nothing. There's really nothing. There's really no life, I think, without community. And through that process of creating that community, I think the main thing is I've stood up as a placeholder for the arts in the community. And I think people are beginning to understand that it's very important to have that placeholder because not everybody holds that space. And I think slowly people are beginning to invest in the arts, beginning to see the importance for it, and beginning to, it's not where I would like it to be, but it's getting there. I think slowly people are hearing and listening to this need to have this. So definitely Rave Cultural Foundation is a great place for you to come and learn more about Indian performing arts, especially. Don't miss any of our events, okay? Because every event we curate to that extent. There are so many places in Northwest Arkansas you could go to learn a new skill. I think the best way to stretch your brain, to give your brain that 360-degree, I don't know, should we call it a cleanse, perhaps? I don't know. Right?
Yeah.
Like a complete decluttering and, complete sweep up. I think art is a great place. There are many opportunities obviously at Crystal Bridges, Museum of American Art. There is the Walton Arts Center. There is the AMPN. There is, I think, the Momentary. And I mean, all those big top headliner organizations are there, and they'll keep you busy throughout the year, I think. There are smaller organizations I didn't know this. I found out just 2 weeks ago, but right next to the Walton Arts Center, there is a community creative building. Do you know about that, George?
Yeah, that's where I used to do pottery.
Oh my gosh, I went inside and I'm like, okay, I need to move to Fayetteville and live closer to this place so that I can, go there more often. They have pottery, they have painting, they have sewing classes, they have all sorts of things.
They're making everything, yeah.
Everything, they have everything in there. I was amazed. I didn't even know there was so much space for all that over there. And then there is the Interform, which is in Springdale, which is this nonprofit that gives free classes for you to learn to design and sew and even make it a full profession if you want to, and they give you all that kind of support. Everything is provided. I went for some classes because I love sewing. I used to sew my own clothes a long time ago. And I went there and free classes, they have all the supplies, everything. I was like, this is like heaven. This is sewing heaven. And that is there. Of course, here in Bentonville, and I think on 5th Street, there is a whole bunch of these artists, who teach you to, again, pottery making or painting or sculpting. And, there is CASH. I always get it wrong, but they're the Arkansas Community Creative Hub and Exchange, and I'm sure I said that wrong, but CACHE, and they're an organization that helps promote all different kinds of artists in the region, and they are a great, their website I think is a fantastic list of almost every kind of artist out here and the art form, everything, and you could even use that as a place to start and connect with people who are already practicing something and learn more and go from there. So plenty of opportunities.
I think you definitely named them all. I also found a place called Kaleidoscope, which is downtown Rogers. So just speaking to our Northwest Arkansas listeners, I think we've named a couple things in Fayetteville, some stuff in Springdale, Bentonville, and Rogers has a tufting class, glass, all that thing. And if you really want to get out to Eureka Springs, they do ironworking, and you can get really crazy with some really cool stuff. And it's all classes, like you said, it's all classes. They have everything for you. You can walk in and take a class. And then some of them, if you start to becoming a professional artist, can help you get there too. I believe CASH has grants and things like that for artists. I know the U of A has some artists that come and actually work at the U of A. They're not working, but they're providing space.
The U of A one, and we sometimes don't treat cooking as an art form, but it is also an art form if we choose it to be. They have some of these beautiful, amazing spaces where you can go and cook and even if you want, even sell it later and things. I didn't know such places existed. But they've come up with a brand new location in Springdale, just opposite the Jones Center. And of course, the Jones Center, I mean, oh my gosh, so many opportunities at the Jones Center for artists and people who want to take classes or, interact with the arts in any way. So yeah, plenty.
Well, I don't want to cut you off because this has been amazing, but we do have to wrap up this one. Is there any one piece of advice that you would leave for our listeners before we go?
Just stay true to who you are. Listen deep within you for that voice. Don't suppress that voice, because if you suppress it too long, it vanishes. So don't let it vanish. You are you. Each one of us is a unique. I always use the analogy of piece of the mosaic. Even if one mosaic is out of place, you notice. So each one of us fit perfectly into this beautiful mosaic that is life. So just be you.
I love that so much. Just be you. Be loud, be extra, be quiet. Be whatever it is that you are, be that. So thank you so much for being on our show today, Srividya. Thank you so much
for having me.
Yes, you were amazing. Thank you so much to our listeners. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for following us. But continue to do that. We will continue to bring topics. We also are running some polls. And if you have additional feedback on what you would like to hear, but we have a whole year, another year almost teed up of content. So we are super excited, grateful. And as Jordan?
Subscribe, follow, however you want to listen to us. Come on.
Yes, and as usual, Srividya's information will pop up at the end of the episode, and so you can go out and follow her and Rave organization. I am super excited about the upcoming events, and so I hope to see you guys there. Thank you so much.
Hey.
Thank you.
Well, that's a wrap. Another episode of Women in Tech Trailblazers podcast. Thanks for tuning in and sharing this time with us. If you liked what you heard, please share this episode with your friends in tech, and don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. Your support helps us keep bringing in inspiring guests and uncovering topics that matter to you. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries and making your mark in the tech world. Goodbye for now.